Okay, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over a multimeter test circuit. So we're going to be using a circuit that we're going to build, and we're going to test it using a multimeter. So the first thing we have to do is build the circuit. So let's pull out an Arduino real quick. And we're going to rotate this. Zoom out a little bit. Then we're going to pull out our breadboard. Move this breadboard over here like this. And so with the breadboard, we have our positive row, we have our negative row, and you can see we have our number and letter rows. That's how we're going to notate where we're going to be putting our resistors and our LED lights. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be pulling out a 220 ohm resistor. So let's go ahead and pull out that resistor. And so I'm going to connect it on the positive. Let's go with 2 from row 2 on the positive on terminal 1, and then on terminal 2 I'm going to get a red line. Let's go ahead and put it onto, for terminal 2, we're going to move that to row 2D. Okay, so that way, there we go. Okay, and so now we have to make that a 220 ohm resistor. So we're going to go over here to the resistance. We're going to change this to straight ohms, and we're going to change this to 220. Okay, so that's going to give us our resistance. You can see our two red bands and our brown band, which notates 220. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to put our LED light. So we're going to bring an LED light in. Okay, and so the thing about the LED lights is that we have an anode and a cathode. The anode is this side right here, which is supposed to be a long wire, and our cathode is this side. So the anode is the positive, the cathode is the negative. And so what we have to do is we have to put our anode, we're going to take a red line from our anode, and we're going to bring that down, and we're going to connect it to E. And then we're going to take a black line wire, and we're going to connect our cathode to row 4, and then we're going to go with 4E. Okay, and you see how I had to cross the wires there, and that's just because Tinkercad does not allow me to flip this circuit. So it allows me to rotate it, but it doesn't allow me to flip it. And so because of that, I have to cross my wires. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a black wire, putting our ground, and we're going to start it from our row 4. So we have to be in line with our black cathode. We're going to go with 4A, and we're going to bring that down to the ground. And so bring that down to that ground wire area. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be adding our black ground wire. So we're going to go from the ground, which is the ground port right here, and I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to bring it down to the ground. Now the next thing I need to do is bring my red wire, and I'm going to go from port 13 on the other side. So port 13, which is our standard port for our power, and we're going to bring that over to our positive. So we can straighten this up here. All right. And so now when we run this, we start simulation, it should have power. Okay, so now that we have power, what we're going to do is stop simulation. Now we are going to go into testing. Okay, and so we're going to be using our multimeter. And so over here in our components, we have to go to all components, and we're going to be taking out our multimeter. So we're scrolling down until you find your multimeter, which is going to be here. I'm going to put it right on this side right here. And the first thing that we're going to be testing on this circuit is the voltage. Okay, and so when we test for voltage, what we're going to do is on our multimeter, you can see we have a negative and we have a positive. And so actually, let's move this over to here for now, just to make it a little bit easier. We'll just do it straight right here. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to take our positive first. So find your positive line, and you're going to draw a line down to your positive lead. And so we can let's make it into a little bit easier for us to be able to see that positive. So we're going to connect it onto our positive lead. You can clean it up if you want. And now what we're going to do is go over here to our black wire, and we're going to take that down to our negative lead, and we can just go straight down. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to click on our multimeter. We're going to make sure that we're testing for voltage. And what I want you to do is hit Start Simulation. And in today's assignment, you're going to write down what you see inside of that multimeter. And so you should see a number. It's blanked out right now because it's a test. And so you're going to see a number. I want you to write that number down. So voltage, okay? Next thing that we're going to be doing is testing for our current. And so for the current, what we have to do is we have to actually flip our LED light. So let's go ahead and take off these wires here. We're going to test for current now. And so what we have to do now is we have to make the multimeter part of the circuit to test for the current. And how we're going to do that is we're actually going to move our anode, which is going to be our red wire, and we're going to move that over to row 4F. And our cathode, we're going to keep it right there, okay? And so what this does is now both of them are on that negative line right here. And so we're going to change our multimeter to amperage. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start testing. And so what we're going to do on this one is, because it's selected black, we're going to place that black wire first, which is our negative lead. And so with this negative lead, we're going to bring this, and the negative lead is actually going to be on our positive line. Click off of that, go ahead and change it to red. And now the positive line is going to be down here on the resistor, the end of the resistor. What I just did right now was I made this multimeter part of the circuit, right? So it's going to go red through the multimeter, back through the black, which is going to be inside of that. It's going to go up to the LED and then back down through the ground. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Start Simulation, and we should see our amperage here. And so the amperage is going to be in milliamps right here. You can see, because I've blacked out the number, but the milliamps, what you have to do is, in order for us to calculate for the resistance, which is what we're going to do next, we have to take this number and divide it by 1,000. So you're taking this number, which is in milliamps, and you're going to divide it by 1,000 to get the amperage. Now, once you get the amperage, what we're going to be doing is calculating for our resistance. And we know that this resistor is 220, but we're going to calculate the total resistance that's here on our circuit. And how we're going to do that is resistance equals voltage, which was our first number, divided by the current, which is our second number, equals our resistance. And so now what I want you guys to do is you're going to calculate for that resistance, put that in. Now that's going to be the total resistance, right? And we know that our resistor is 220. And so now the fourth thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be calculating for this resistor. And so because this has a brown band, and that's the tolerance band, so that means that the total tolerance for this resistor is plus or minus 5%. So you're taking that 220, and I want you to give me what the total tolerance is. And then I want you to subtract that number from what you got for the resistance, and that will give you the resistance for this LED right here, because this is what's providing that other part of the resistance from your calculation. That's all I got for today, guys. And if you have any questions, please ask your teacher, and I'll talk to you guys later.